Hi, everyone. A warm welcome to today's webinar. It's perfectly 10 a.m. here in Germany, so we're going to start right on time. A couple words about myself. My name is Bastian Elsner. I'm CEO of Elsner Elektronik, and today I will be hosting your webinar. In the background, probably you could see him. Frederick is sitting, our head of technical service, and he will help me to answer all the technical questions that might arise during the webinar. Today's webinar is live, so feel free to ask during the webinar. Of course, you can also send some emails afterwards, but we can make this webinar as interactive as possible. I would love this, so please shoot your question if any should arise. So I'll turn off the camera for now so we can really focus on the presentation and we'll get right into it. Thanks for joining in. Let's get into it. So today's webinar is about our KNX push button series, eTR. It's a standalone series, but what exactly it's going to be, we're going to tell you in a couple minutes. A couple words about myself. My name is Bastian Elsner. As already mentioned, I'm the CEO of Elsner Elektronik. And I'm happy to guide you through today's webinar. Let's get into the learning goals for today. So after this webinar, if we are successful, you know the range and the functions of the individual eTR models. There's quite a couple for many different use cases, but we'll go over them in detail. Also, after the webinar, you will be capable of selecting the right eTR model for your specific project. Also, we will discuss different mounting options for the devices because yes, that's quite interesting. There's a twist with those products, but we'll discuss this in the end of today's webinar. Next up, the agenda. First of all, the eTRs for individual room controls. Next up, we're going to discuss the eTR push buttons with additional functions. Next up, we're going to have an outlook on the future innovations, some new eTR models that might arise. Okay, let's get into the first one and actually the originator. Okay, let's start with the model eTR 101. So there's actually quite a funny story about this one. The eTR 101 is a very simple thermostat. We like to call it KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. You don't have anything else except of the plus and minus buttons to change the set point of your thermostat. Of course, in the ETS application, there's some neat little features inside, but for the user itself, you can keep it very simple, stupid, so everyone can understand it. Also, the maybe the story behind this product. So actually, in the house where I've been growing up with my parents, our thermostats broke down. We didn't have KNX back then, but we were looking for a very simple thermostat where you can only change the set point. And unfortunately, we couldn't find a single one that we really liked and wanted to put inside our house. So my dad came up with this idea of a very, very simple room controller. And there we are. That's the eTR series. So let's get into it. So here we see the eTR 101, which is equipped with touch buttons that can be used to adjust the temperature. It also had a LED display that shows the current temperature or the set point. Next to it, you can see the eTR GL. This is a simple temperature sensor without the touch function and without the LED display, so it's a pure temperature sensor. The eTR GL is often used in classrooms, for example, where you don't want the students to change the set points all the time. Also, you can monitor all the temperatures in the different classrooms via visualization, for example. Yes, I think I went over most of those points. So yes, we have the integrated temperature sensor. This accounts for every single eTR model. So every eTR model that you're going to see today has the integrated temperature sensor for the mixed value calculation. In the eTR 101, we have the heating cooling control. Obviously, it's a thermostat. And we have the output of two temperature threshold values. The operating voltage is the bus voltage. The bus voltage also accounts for all the other eTR models as well. You see, we have the eTR 101 and we have the eTR 101 BA2. What's the difference? The eTR 101 BA2 has two binary analog inputs for contacts, sorry, for example, for dry contacts or read contacts or something alike. You can also connect, for example, external NTC that you can put below the underfloor heating, so you have a mixed value calculation for underfloor heating control. Next up, one of my favorite models. It's the eTR 102 fan coil. You can see the basis, once again, is our eTR 101, but one of our customers mentioned, hey, I would love to use the eTR, but I need to control the fan coil. Can you come up with a device that has low, mid, and high fan coil settings, automatic mode, and very easy to use? I don't want to confuse the guests that are in my hotel. It was actually a hotel project where this product came up with. So let's get into detail. It's a device that can be used for the heating and cooling control, but also for the fan coil control, so you can use it for the ventilation. We have the three-stage switching of the fan via the touch buttons. Also the automatic on and off button if you have the automatic mode activated. Next up, we can have a look at the eTR 201 and 202. You can see it's still the basis of the eTR 101, but here we would like to include next to the temperature control, the sun protection. So the functions of the eTR 101, which we have already looked at in the first slide, are not really sufficient for all the applications. Therefore, we extended to other variants, such as the one that you see right now. So these models have all the same basic functionalities of the eTR 101, but also offer an extended functionality for the touch buttons that, for example, enables the control for two shades, like in this example. These additional functions make the devices particularly flexible and also adaptable for different areas of application while staying true to one design. So for example, you could use a simple thermostat, and next to the window you would like to have a thermostat where you can also control the blinds. It's the same series, same design, but different functionalities. I'll just go over these points very quickly because it's kind of repetitive, and I wanted to just give you a kind of broad overview of the eTR product range. Okay, next up, eTR 205 and 206. Here we can control the temperature and we can also control the lighting. So the eTR series also includes the eTR 206 and 205 models, which can be seen in the pictures on the right. These models offer the basic functions already learned with the eTR 101, but have the addition of touch buttons for controlling specifically the light. One of the special features is that you can see, probably if I add some more pictures, you can see the white LED indication lights above the push buttons. So we have a visual feedback above each of the arrow symbols. It's a particularly useful additional function is also the surface function. So for example, if you want to trigger one command, I think one of the most common examples is you want an all off command. So you can turn everything off when you leave the room. This is possible with the ETRs as well because we have the area function where we can, if we trigger two or more touch buttons at the same time simultaneously, we can trigger a scene, for example, or an all off. I think this is the most common use case. Next up, we have the eTR 208. This one has the addition next to the basic functions that we can control the lighting and the shading with the same device. So with all these small products, we can already cover most of the important functions of a room. We have heating, lighting, and shading control in one device. Also, I won't be talking too much about the pricing in this webinar because it's not meant to be a sales webinar. It's just information about the series that we're having and where we constantly make new devices. If you have questions about the pricing of those products, because I have to say they are quite affordable and a cost-effective solution for building automation with KNX, feel free to shoot me a message afterward. I'll be more than happy to supply all the information about the pricing for those products. I also wanted to give you a kind of design example how this might look if you install the product. So the device can be mounted either on a flush mounted box or directly on the wall. Inside, there's a special clamp that allows the installation directly on the wall or on a sill channel without the use of a flush mounted box. So this flexible mounting option simplifies installation in different environments. You can also see in this specific example, we have the room controller installed, the eTR 101. We have them installed on a height of approximately 150 meters, and then on the 120 meters, where you usually push the, sorry, I was a little bit too fast. And on 1 meter 20, where you have the smaller ones, you can, for example, implement a push button as well. So this is how the devices could be looking on the wall. Let's hop into the next chapter, the eTR push buttons and also their additional features. Let's start with the KNX M series. We have the M1, which is a single gang push button, but also it has an integrated temperature sensor. As already mentioned, this accounts for all the eTR series. These KNX push buttons have a LED touch surface and offer a white LED indication for visual feedback. So in addition, as in all eTRs, as already mentioned, temperature sensor is included and the mixed value calculation is possible. We have a 1 gang, 2 gang, and 4 gang push button for the KNX eTR M series. There's also another M model coming up, which I'm going to be showing you later. We're going to release it roundabout in Q1 next year. All right, here we have some other design example of the 4 gang push button in black this time. Also, I'm not sure if I mentioned it already, all the eTR models are available in the color white and in the color black. Let's have a look at the overview. First, the KNX eTR M series, the normal push buttons. Next up, we have the basic thermostat. We have the thermostat with the additional functionality, like for example, the shading, lightning control, or shading and lightning all put together in one room controller. Also, we have the eTR GL and the eTR fan coil for fan coil control. That was the overview of all the existing models that you can already order and we have in our range. I hope I'm not wrong. I think it's roundabout since 2.5 to 3 years when we released this product. Let's have a look into the future. Another device that we're gonna make is the eTR 103 AC. It looks very similar to the eTR fan coil and it also have similar functionalities. So you can control the temperature with the plus and minus buttons and you can set the temperature as displayed on the 7 segment visualization. But a special thing is you also have 4 modes that you can switch on and you can switch those modes by pressing the button M. You can switch between dehumidification, cooling, heating, and the fan speed. Also, the buttons for automatic and manual and switching off the AC are included in this quite complete room controller for ventilation and air quality control in that sense. Will be very, very useful paired with a CO2 sensor. I already mentioned most of the functionality, so I won't go over all those bullet points. And I think we can move on to the next products, which is already as announced, the eTR M6 BA2. So we're gonna have a push button with a 6 gang push button with integrated temperature sensor, and you can see it's a BA2. So we have the binary analog inputs where we can connect, for example, an external NTC or a dry contact or read contact or something like this. Also, the area function, of course, is possible. So if you take it like this, you could say it's a 7 gang push button when using the area function as an additional push button. Okay, next up, we have the eTR 101 M4 BA2. So this is, we received the feedback for our, especially for the 202, 205. Okay, this is a very practical use case, but what if I don't have shading and if I don't have lightning or something else? I need something where I have freely configurable push buttons plus a thermostat. I don't want to buy 2 devices. That's why we came up with the eTR M4 BA2. So it's basically the full-fledged eTR 101 plus a 4 gang push button included in the same products. Once again, it's a BA2 version, so we already also have the binary analog input, we have the integrated temperature sensor, and we have the area function as well. Plus, we have the LED feedback for each of the different push buttons. Now, a quick summary of the new products. We talked about the KNX eTR 103 AC, we talked about the eTR M6 BA2, and we talked about the eTR 101 M4. Some of the devices are already registered, and we're in the last stretch of the development process, but it's still going to take a couple weeks until everything is done. So I think very plausible is that we're going to release those products over the course of Q1 in 2025. If you would like to have more information about that, feel free to shoot me an email or also ask a question right now. You can see there's an email. You can simply send emails or requests or questions whatsoever in this email. So we are already at the end of today's webinar. Thank you very much for attending. If some questions came up, feel free to ask them now. We still have a couple minutes time, so I will stay in the webinar and be here to answer all your questions. All right, I can't see anyone typing or doing anything alike. So I think there are no open questions. I will stay for another minute and then I will close today's webinar. Another thank you for attending today's webinar. I hope the information provided was good. You expected this for today's webinar. We will also be sending out a feedback form for all attendants. So I would be more than happy if you could give me your really brutal and honest feedback. We want to be better each webinar that we're doing within Elsner Academy, and we can only become better if we receiving your feedback. So please don't hold back. If you have ideas, some inputs, what we can do for future webinars, we are all ears. So once again, thank you for attending. Oh, and before I forget it, the presentation will be sent to all participants afterwards. And yes, feel free to use the contents. And yes, I'm happy that you attended today, and I wish you a wonderful remaining week. Bye bye.